Hello everyone, you are very welcome to our SUSI information event for 2024. My name is Eleanor Murphy and I'm the Communications and Customer Service Manager here with SUSI. SUSI is Ireland's national awarding authority for all further and higher education grants, and we provide funding to eligible students at PLC, undergraduate and postgraduate levels. We are now open and accepting applications for academic year 24-25. So today we're going to share with you all the information you need about student funding. We'll begin by taking a look at the eligibility criteria and help you understand if you might be eligible for funding. We'll then take a look at the application process and walk you through how to make an application. We also have our expert team on hand to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, do pop them into the Q&A button at the top of your screen. But please do keep in mind that if you ask a question, it may be published for everybody in attendance here today to see. So if you would like to remove your name, please select anonymous. We are recording today's event and we will be sharing it on our website and social media channels. So again, do keep in mind that your questions or any engagement with the posts in the Q&A may be viewable in the recording. So we're now ready to get started, and I'd like to introduce my colleague, Christian Ledwidge O'Reilly. Christian is going to take us through our presentation for today. Hi, Christian.
Hi, Eleanor, and hi, everyone at home. Thanks for joining today. Yep, so let me just bring up the presentation. So as Eleanor said, we're going to go through this presentation and hopefully answer some of the kind of frequently asked questions that we get about the SUSI grant. So they include what is the SUSI grant? So I'll explain the kind of two main components of the SUSI grant. That's a maintenance grant and a fee grant. And then we'll move on to the eligibility criteria. So a lot of people will ask us, am I eligible or how do I know that I'm eligible? So I'm going to go through the main eligibility criteria for the grant. And then we are going to move on to the application process, as Eleanor mentioned. So we'll talk you through that process and let you know how you can apply for SUSI. Then what we'll do is also we'll let you know what you need when you're filling out the application. So what information you need to give us when you are going to apply for the SUSI grant. And then we will have a look at what happens next. So what happens after you have submitted your grant. So we're going to get started with the first question then, and that is what is the SUSI grant? So there is two main components to the SUSI grant. There is a maintenance grant and there is a fee grant. So we'll start with the maintenance grant. What is the maintenance grant? Well, this is a grant that's going to help you with your day-to-day costs while you are in college. And if you are eligible for the maintenance grant and are awarded a maintenance grant, it will be paid directly into your bank account. So it will be paid to you in 9 monthly installments for the 9 months that you're in college. And one other aspect of the maintenance grant that I'll mention is the rates that will depend on the distance that you live from your home to your college. So there is what we call the non-adjacent rate. So this is at the higher rate of grant, and this is paid to you when your college is 30 kilometers or more from your normal residence, so from your home. And there is also the adjacent rate, which you may have guessed is the rate that you're paid when your college is less than 30 kilometers from your normal residence. So we will ask you on the application form for your area code. And the reason that we ask you for your area code is to determine whether you live either 30 kilometers or less than 30 kilometers from your college. So that's really the maintenance grant in a nutshell. Like I said, it's a grant to help you cover your day-to-day cost of living when you're in college. And if you are awarded a maintenance grant, it will be paid directly into your bank account each month that you are in college. So it's 9 monthly installments. So then let's move on to the fee grant. So as you may have guessed, the fee grant may cover all or part of your tuition fees, and it may also cover all or part of the student contribution charge as well. As well as covering the tuition fees and the student contribution, it may also cover the cost of any essential field trips that you have to take when you were in college. So if you do have any essential field trips as part of your course, the fee grant may cover those. So that's really the two grants there in a nutshell. There's the maintenance grant, which is to cover your day-to-day cost of living. It's paid directly into your bank account. Then there is the fee grant, which, as you can see here, again, may cover all or part of your tuition fees, your student contribution, and also the cost of your essential field trips. If you are awarded a fee grant, Susie will pay that directly to your college. So it's something that you don't have to worry about. You will receive a award letter from us, which I'll go into some details on later. But you can bring that to your college on the day of registration, and it will state on that letter that Susie is covering all or part of your tuition fees or your student contribution. So that's the grant there. Next, we're going to move on to the funding type. So what does the maintenance grant and what does the fee grant cover? Well, it does provide funding assistance for PLC students. So if you're a PLC student, you may be eligible for a maintenance grant. There's no fees for PLC courses, so there will be no fee grant naturally for the PLC courses. And then if you are looking to pursue an undergraduate course in Ireland, in the state, what the undergraduates will be eligible for potentially is a maintenance grant and also the fee grant. So again, the fee grant may cover the student contribution and the tuition fees there. If you're looking to do an undergraduate course in the UK or in the EU in a public institution, you may be eligible for a maintenance grant. However, Susie cannot pay fees for overseas courses. So that's just one to bear in mind there. And then for postgraduate students, you may be eligible for the maintenance grant, which was reintroduced last January for postgraduate students, and also a postgrad fee contribution grant. So they're the kind of the three funding types there that we can cover. So that's PLC, undergraduate, and postgraduate students. Now let's move on to the eligibility criteria. So how do you know if you're eligible? Well, as you see here on the screen, there is 5 main eligibility criteria. That's nationality, residency, approved colleges / approved courses, progression in education, and the household income. So we're going to walk through each of these now. Some of them are quite straightforward, and then some of them, like the household income, we'll go into a little bit more detail on. So let's start off with nationality. So to be eligible for SUSI, you need to be an Irish, EU, EEA, UK, or Swiss national, or have specific leave to remain in the state as granted by the Department of Justice. So you can find a list of those specific leave to remain on the SUSI website. That's susi.ie under the nationality section. It's quite easy to use the website. If you just go to the homepage, there is a search function on there, and you can just type in nationality. That will bring you to the nationality page, as will bring you to various pages, depending on your search as we go through each of these eligibility criteria. But that's the nationality in a nutshell. It's one of the more straightforward eligibility criteria. Next up, another one that's rather straightforward as well is residency. So you must have been ordinarily resident in Ireland, the EU, EEA, UK, or Switzerland for 3 of the last 5 years. So long as you have been resident in Ireland, the EU, EEA, UK, or Switzerland for 3 of the last 5 years, you will be meeting that residency criteria there. Next up, then, we're going to have a look at approved colleges and approved courses. So again, to be eligible for SUSI, you must be attending or looking to attend an approved course in an approved institution. This one's quite straightforward. Again, you can go onto the website and we list out all the courses and all the institutions that are eligible for SUSI funding. That's all the PLC centres, all the universities, all the postgraduate centres, everything is on there. You can just go in and you can search down through the whole list. But usually, if it's in a public college in Ireland, it will be an approved course there. So moving along, we're going to have a look at the next eligibility criteria, which is progression in education. So what does this mean? It means basically that you must be attending an approved course that leads to a higher level of qualification than any that you may already hold. So basically it means you need to be moving up the scale. You need to be progressing in your education. I know a lot of people joining this evening are leaving cert students, so progression is something you don't really need to worry about for now, but I will mention it and go into a little bit more detail as it is one of the key eligibility criteria. So like I said, the course you're attending, it must lead to a high level of qualification that you may already hold. Suppose an example of this would be maybe you already hold a level 7 degree and you are looking to do a level 8 degree now. That means you are progressing in your education, so you're meeting that eligibility criteria. If, for example, you did hold that level 7 and you want to do another level 7 course, unfortunately, you wouldn't be eligible for funding from SUSI because you're not moving up the scale. Likewise, the course must be at a higher level than any course that you've previously attended. And also, quite importantly, you must be progressing from one year to the next and not repeating a year. So this means like SUSI cannot basically fund repeat periods of study. So for example, if you needed to repeat year 1 of your course for any reason, we wouldn't be able to fund that year 1 repeat period there. However, when you do progress up to year 2, you will become eligible for funding again. So that's progression. Like I said, I know a lot of people joining are leaving cert students, so it's probably not something that you don't need to worry about for now anyway, but it's worth bearing in mind. And then we're going to move on to the final eligibility criteria, which is the household income. So we do get a lot of questions about this, and we're going to go into a little bit of detail here just to dig into the household income a little bit. So what is the household income? Well, this is a student's household income. The reason that we look at it is it must fall under specific thresholds in order to be eligible for the grant. And this will be a factor in determining what type of funding you may be eligible to receive. The next slide, we're going to have a look at the kind of upper income thresholds for the 24-25 academic year. So for each academic year, we look at the household income from the previous year. So naturally for the 24-25 academic year, we're going to be looking at the household income from last year, for 2023. So if last year's household income is under €100,000 for a family with less than 4 dependent children at home, then you may be eligible for a grant. This upper threshold increases then for a family that have 4 to 7 dependent children at home. This brings the income up to €109,600. And then the final upper threshold is for a family with 8 or more dependent children at home, and the household income jumps up here to €118,806. You can find the full listing of all the income thresholds again on our website on susi.ie in the income section, and you can also see on those income tables the rate of grant that you may be eligible for depending on where the household income falls below. So again, it's the gross household income from last year, from 2023, that we're looking at. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about that household income and what that means in the SUSI grant now. So firstly, we're going to look at whose income is considered. So whose income are we looking at? What that makes up that household income? Well, that depends on what type of student you're classified as. So you could be classified as a dependent student, and that is somebody who is under 23 years of age. So if you are under 23 years of age, and I know a lot of people joining us here today, like you said, are leaving cert students, more than likely you will be classified as a dependent student. And as a dependent student, we are going to look at your income, so it's the student's income, and also the income of your parents and your legal guardians. One thing to note here, guys, if it's just one parent at home, we're just going to look at the income that of the parent that the student is living with. So it's just worth bearing that in mind. And there are also there you can see there is the mature dependent student. So the mature dependent student is somebody who is over 23 years of age, but is also living with their parents. So if you are over 23 and you're living with your parents, household income is going to be your income and the income of your parents or your legal guardians. So the next classification then is the independent student. So this is somebody who is over 23 where at their first point of entry into further higher education. So they're over 23 when they first started further higher education, and they've been living independently of their parents from at least October 2023. So if you do meet this classification of being over 23 at your first point of entry and also living independently from your parents from at least October 2023, we will be looking at your income again and also the income of your spouse, your civil partner, or your cohabitant if you have any of those, if any of those are relevant to you. So that's whose income that we're considering when we're looking at the income calculation. We're going to move on then to what income is considered. So it's all gross income, as I said, from the previous financial year. So for the 24-25 academic year that we're in now, we're going to be looking at the income from 2023. As we know, in Ireland, the financial year is the same as the calendar year, which makes things handy. So that is going to be all gross income from the 1st of January to the 31st of December 2023. If there is any foreign income coming in, we will ask you for relevant documents from that, as the financial years from other countries can be different to the Irish one. But really, that's kind of like what income we are considering. Now we're going to have a look at the types of income that we are going to be taking into consideration. So we'll start off with, as you probably will have guessed, income from employment, so any kind of PAYE, income, and any income from private pensions as well. Also, any income from self-employment or farming. So if one of your parents or yourself is a farmer or they are self-employed, we will be looking at that income too. Also, social welfare payments, which we will ask you for on the application form. We'll ask you for the details of any social welfare payments you received last year. One thing to note here is not all social welfare payments will be included in the final calculation. We will ask you for them, but some of them are what we called income disregards, so they will be disregarded from the final calculation. I will go into a little bit more detail on that in a couple of slides' time. Moving on though, we also have income from rental. So if there's any income from rental properties coming in, that will also be considered. And then income from savings and investments. This is worth noting here, guys. It's not going to be the value of the savings. It's just going to be any income that you made from those savings last year. So any interest, for example, that you made. So don't worry, it's not the whole value of the savings or the whole amount that's in the savings account. It's just any income that was generated from that from last year. Also, if there is any maintenance arrangements, we will be considering the income from the received from those maintenance arrangements. And also any lump sum payments from retirements and redundancies. Worth noting on this, guys, though, is we won't take the full lump sum into account. We will take the number of years service in the job or in the role that is related to the retirement or the redundancy, and we will divide that by the lump sum, just so we're not taking the whole lump sum into consideration. We'll just take a multiple of it into or a division of it, into consideration there. And finally, also gifts and inheritance. So if you did receive any gifts or inheritance last year, they will also be taken into consideration. So they're the kind of the income types that we consider. Let's have a look at a couple of the income disregards that I mentioned earlier. So like I said, not all income is included in the final calculation. I'm going to give you a few examples of some of the social welfare payments that can be disregarded from the final income calculation. These include the housing assistance payment, or HAP as commonly known as, rent supplement, and also the working family payment. That's just an example of three of them. Again, if you go onto our website, susi.ie, in the income section of the website, you will see a section there for income disregards, and that will list all the income disregards on all the social welfare payments that are considered to be income disregards as well. One other deduction that we can also make from the final income calculation is something that we call holiday earnings. So this is income that the student will have earned last year, so long as they were in full-time education. Any income that they earned outside of term time, so in the 2 weeks of Easter, in the summer months, and in the 2 weeks of Christmas, we can take a maximum or make a maximum deduction of up to €7,925 from this time period that the student has earned, just so you're not penalized for, working outside of term time or having a summer job, for example. We can make this deduction, which has increased this year up to the €7,925. You must declare this on your application, though. It's an important one. When you're filling out your application, when it comes to your income, the student's income, we will ask you naturally how much income you made last year. And then another question will pop up, and that will ask how much of this income was holiday earnings. So just make sure that you declare it there. It doesn't have to be right down to the euro. Just give us the kind of the ballpark figure on it. What will happen then is our assessment team, who will be looking at your application, they may ask you for evidence of the holiday earnings, but will only ask you for evidence if it's going to get you into a higher rate of grant. So basically, if we can see that you've declared holiday earnings, and if we make the deduction, it's going to get you a higher rate of grant, we will ask you for evidence of that. You'll get a letter out from us, a checklist letter. I'll go into that in a bit more detail soon, but for the holiday earnings, all you have to do is go to our website, download a form. You bring it to your employer. Your employer will fill the form in and sign it, and you send it back to us, and then we can make the deduction and hopefully get you into a better rate of grant. But it's an important one to remember. It's the holiday earnings. Another important one to remember as well is what we call a relevant person in education. But what does that mean in plain English? Basically, this is if you have a brother or sister or a parent who is in full-time further or higher education at the same time as you. So if you do have a parent, maybe one of your brother and sisters are going to be in college this year at the same time as you, this may improve the rate of maintenance grant that you are eligible to receive. So it's important to let us know that. And there is a section of the application form. It's section E2, and we will ask you for the details of your sibling or your parent, whoever that relevant person is. If they've applied for a SUSI grant, we'll ask you for the W number, and we'll also ask you, are you happy to share data between the two applications? This means that if you do say yes to it, and also the other person says yes to it, so maybe your brother or sister or your parents say yes to sharing of the data as well, it means the same person will look at your application in SUSI, the same assessor, and you'll just get those letters out at the same time. We'll also be able to share some data, maybe in relation to your parents' income, etc. when we are assessing your grant. It will just mean you'll be assessed at the same time. You'll get the letters or your decision from us in around the same time. So important to remember to complete that section E2 of the application form. And we're just going to finish up on the special rate of maintenance award. Just one I would like to mention here. There is a special rate of maintenance grant available. So it's like a top up of the ordinary grant. And this is for eligible students whose household income is below €26,200, and they also have a eligible long-term Department of Social Protection payment in the household. That payment needs to be held at the 31st of December 2023. But like I said, there is a special rate of grant. It is for students whose household income is below that 26,200, and they have that long-term eligible Department of Social Protection payment. You can find a full list of those payments. Again, you probably guessed it, on our website, susi.ie. Just have a look at the special rate section there. So one other one I'd like to mention is a change in circumstances, or like a change of income, really. So this is when a change of income has occurred after 2023. So maybe this year somebody at home has retired, or they have been made redundant, or maybe they've gone from working full-time to working part-time, so they've had like a permanent change of hours, and this has affected the amount of income that's coming into the household, and it's the income that will be coming into the household in 2024 is lower than the 2023 income that you've declared on your application form. If this is the case, you can let us know this. You just have to say yes to one of the final questions on the application. It's question F16. If you say yes to that, what will happen is our assessors will have a look at your projected income from 2024. And if it is going to be lower than the 2023 income, we may be able to award you on that lower income, which will hopefully result in a higher rate of grant for you. We may have to ask you for some evidence of this, but like I said, when you're filling out your application, if this has happened at home, make sure that you tick yes to question F16, and this will open up a free text box in your application form, and you can give us a short description of the nature of the change. So that's the change in circumstances. Now we're going to leave the eligibility criteria for now, and I just wanted to draw your attention to a tool that we have on our website. As you see up here on the screen, it's called the eligibility indicator. This gives you just a quick way of checking your eligibility for the SUSI grant. It will just take a minute or two, and it will just ask you questions based on those eligibility criteria that we went through, and it will give you an idea that you may or may not be eligible for the grant. So it's something that's worth checking out. It's on the homepage of the website. Moving along then, let's have a look at the application process. So quite a lot of people ask us at open days and at events, when can I apply for the SUSI grant for this year? Well, the good news is we are open now for the 24-25 academic year. We opened in April. And it's a fully online application process. So I'm going to go through that now, starting off with what do I need? So when you're sitting down and you are, sorry, skip the slide there. When you're sitting down and you're going to fill out your application form, you're going to fill out your application form with your parents if you're a dependent student. If you have these details with you, it'll just make the application process that much quicker and easier. So firstly, it's your own PPS number, and then also the PPS number for the parties to your application. So that will be your parents if you're a dependent student, or your spouse or civil partner if you're an independent student. Also need the 2023 income details. So as we went through there, when we were looking at the income eligibility criteria, we'll be asking you about income from employment. We'll be asking you about any social welfare payments. So if you have those details to hand when you sit down and start your application, just makes life a lot easier. Also your CAO registration number and the course details of the course that you are looking to pursue or that you're hoping to start in September or October next year. One thing that's really worth pointing out here, guys, is particularly for your Leaving Cert students here, you don't have to have accepted your course or be accepted onto your course to apply for SUSI. Just give us the course details that you of your first choice, the course that you want to do this year. If that does change when the results come out and when the CAO starts coming out, there's two ways for you to let us know that you've changed course. One is you can do this right now. You can log into your CAO account and you can click share data with SUSI option. That will mean the CAO will just let us know if you end up doing a different course than the course that you put onto your SUSI application. That's a kind of a hassle-free way for you that the CAO tell us and we do it, and you'll just get a new award letter out with a new course on it. Or also you can log into your SUSI student portal, which you will have created once you start the application process, and you can change your course details in there anytime. And then the last one, the very kind of simple one, as I mentioned earlier, is the air code. So that's just for us to see if you live over 30 kilometers or under 30 kilometers from your college. So we'll know the type of maintenance grant that you may be eligible for. But yeah, like I said, if you have these details with you when you sit down to start filling out your application, it just makes the process that much easier and quicker. So how do I apply? Like I said, you just go to susi.ie. Firstly, you register your account. And once you have your registered account, you can start on the application process then. So just go through, answer each question. Like I said, we have those details in the previous slide, make things a lot easier. And once you've completed your application form, just remember to submit the application. So there'll be a big green button down the bottom saying submit your application. Make sure you click on that. So once you have clicked on that and you've submitted your application, what happens next? So what will happen is naturally your application will be assessed by our assessment team here. And then you will either receive a letter which will detail in the outcome of your application. So if you're awarded a grant, you'll get a award letter. This letter you can present then when you register at college, and you particularly if you've been awarded a fee grant, you can show your college registration office that SUSI will be covering your fees. And if you're awarded a maintenance grant, it will also give you a breakdown of your maintenance grant and of the 9 monthly installments you can expect when you start college. Or we may ask you for some documentation just to support your application. For a lot of people, we never have to ask for any documentation. Some people, we will request documents for you. These can be financial documents, for example. And what you'll receive from us is a checklist letter. So just be careful that you read that letter fully and see who we're asking the document who we are asking documents from, really. Are we asking you for the documents, or maybe we're asking your parents for the documents there? It is quite clearly licked out on those checklist box on this letter, but just make sure you give it a good read there. So that is pretty much that. What we'll do is we'll just run through a couple of important tips before we finish up, before I hand back to Eleanor. And one of those, like I said, CAO option. If you go into your CAO account and you click the SUSI option on there, that just means if you change your course later on, the CAO will let us know and you don't have to do anything. Apply early. Listen, like I said, we've been open since April for grant applications for 24-25. The sooner you apply to us, the sooner you will get a decision from us. We do have a priority closing date of the 11th of July 2024. So if you do submit your application before that date, before the 11th of July, your application will be assessed before any applications that are received after that date. We do get busy in the summer, so really the key message here, guys, is apply now, apply as early as you can. Also include any relevant persons. So that's what we mentioned earlier. If you have a brother or sister or any parents attending college at the same time as you, this may improve the rate that you're awarded. So just make sure you fill out that section, the E2 section of the application form. You can also track the progress, of your application. We do have a tracker on in your student portal. So once you've submitted it, you can log into your student portal at any time and go to the application tracker, and that will give you an idea of at what stage of the process your application is at. And finally, as I said, if you do get that checklist letter, make sure you have a look at that, have a good read of it, and return all the correct documents complete and on time. So that's it from me. I hope you found that presentation helpful and it answered some questions about SUSI grant and the application process. And I'm going to hand back to Eleanor now. Thank you.
Thanks, Christian. So a reminder that all of the information covered today is available on our website, susi.ie. And that brings today's event to a close. The Q&A is now closed, but do bear with us if you have already asked a question. The team are going to continue working through all of the questions here this evening. You can also contact us through our support desk by phone, email, or on social media. And all those details are available on our website. We're open Monday to Friday from 9 to 5:30. So for now, I'd like to say thanks to everybody here in SUSI for making today's event possible, and to thank you all for joining us. We wish you the very best of luck in your studies, and we look forward to hearing from you in the coming weeks and months. Thank you and goodbye.